Now, today is the final day of the Presidential Summit on Gender-Based Violence and Femicide that's taking place in Midrand. Many victims, families and rights groups say more needs to be done. Just yesterday, the President, Matamela Silindelo Masekane, telling the summit that citizens must hold government accountable when it comes to making sure that the National Strategic Plan to fight GBV works when it comes to this scourge. For more on this now, I'm joined by eNCA reporter Silindelo Masekane, who is joining us live from the venue at Gallagher Estate in Midrand. Good afternoon, Slee. Thanks for joining us again. So a lot is coming out of today's portion of the summit. There's been lots of breakaway discussion groups. What are the key points, in your view, that are being debated or discussed today?
I think one of the major key points being debated right now, or what's come out of day two, is the issue around funding the fight against gender-based violence, and holding departments such as social development as well as treasury to account in terms of where is the money going, what are the programs that are in place, and exactly why more money is not being set aside to fund this fight. So we are, in fact, at the exhibition center, Midrand. I wanted to show our viewers that outside of the discussions, we do have the organizations here coming out to really just show exactly the kind of work they do. You can see some of the statements behind them saying that you can't kill us all, organizing for survival. Hi, ladies, how are you doing? Just tell me a little bit more about your organization and what do you guys do? What is it that you exactly are here for as well?
So Black Women Caucus is a feminist movement fighting against gender-based violence and femicide in South Africa. Within the organization, we've got three divisions: Black Women Caucus, which is the founding division of the organization, and the organization was founded at Wits University by students in 2017. This was after the brutal killing of Karabo Mokoena. We've got Beraka Musade, which is your working class women. We've got your domestic workers, your street vendors, and basically your community-based women that are, staying in your informal settlements. We've also got Black Girls in Caucus, which is the high school division of Black Women Caucus, talking basically about issues of teenage pregnancies, substance abuse, high school and primary school dropouts, as well as your mental health. So that's just about what we do as an organization.
Wow, lovely. Thank you so much for your time. Midrand, just one of the organizations here, Black Women Caucus, in terms of their operations. I just want us to take a listen, Midrand, to a bite from the Social Development Minister while Percy and I move towards one of these exhibitions here, which is quite telling, in fact, of why we're here today. It's an exhibition showing dead bodies, dead women's bodies, a physical representation in terms of what we're trying to end here. But let's just take a listen to the Social Development Minister around the issue that was brought up around the funding of shelters.
The money that is given to the shelters is not adequate. That is the reason why we go also to the private sector, we go to the churches, we go to the people on the ground. And by the way, sometimes we can just be talking about money when it comes to shelters. I have crisscrossed this country. I have found ordinary people who have got absolutely nothing, who go to the shelters to assist in the shelters. So the money that we have in government, it's not adequate. Even with the money that we're giving to shelters, in my view, it is not adequate.
All right.
We need to increase it where we can. But we must also not forget about the fact that Treasury sits with a bigger issue of covering the entire country and all the issues that are related. When we ask the Treasury about money that goes back to them from the Department of Social Development, the money that is given to us that has to go to the provinces, we don't have that money that says we did not spend this one that needed to go, because immediately when it comes to us, it doesn't sit with us, it goes directly. Whether it goes to SASSA, and by the way, it is this department that is paying almost 30 million people today, whether it's social grants or all aspects of social grants, including the 350, all that money goes directly to SASSA, and SASSA does the payment. The money goes to the National Development Agency, and the National Development Agency disperses the money to NPOs and NGOs.
And there you are, the minister there, Lindiwe Zulu, mentioning the issue of funding, Silindelo, as you said, it's one of the big issues around the money. I mean, there has been money that was committed earlier, and people don't know which programs is being spent on, and it's supposed to go somewhere, but there are no results.
And I think this was an indictment really on the representative from National Treasury, Mr. Ismail Manyamut, who actually came here with no reports. He couldn't exactly tell us where, in terms of Treasury, in terms of the reports they're getting from the departments, how that money is being utilized. And, the floor was really quite frustrated with this, because I think National Treasury is really that department that that funding the fight for GBV, that's where it's really going to start. So let's just take a listen to what he had to say around National Treasury's role in funding the fight.
We have to do more, and clearly we're not winning if you look at the numbers, and I think the President outlined that yesterday quite well, the scourge that we're dealing with. And I think the question you ask is a very important question, because we have a number of programs, and the issue is, are they being funded adequately? And I'm going to answer that. I have a figure, 13 billion. The issue is, what is the capability of the state? I think that even before state capture, it's been a problem, and certainly with state capture, it became a bigger problem. Can departments actually do what they say they're going to do? If a program has been budgeted for, are they able to do that? I think that's a challenge we face across government, not just for programs around gender-based violence and femicide. It's a huge problem. It impacts on delivery of services, how we serve communities, the role that government plays, I think is critical. All of us as public servants must be accountable, and we are not sufficiently accountable for whatever reason. We need to improve the system of accountability and make sure we spend as we say we're going to spend, and that the programs that are there are not just funded, but actually are implemented fully and properly.
Yeah, from that bite, you can tell, Silindelo, that he was on the hot seat. In the hot seat, he even loosened his tie. That's Ismail Momoniat from the National Treasury. This whole issue needs more clarification. So it's day 2, and it's the last day of the second presidential summit against gender-based violence and femicide. When and how do we expect it to wrap up? The president did address it yesterday. Are the special speakers still lined up, Silindelo? What can you share with us about the close of today's summit?
Well, at this point, we're still in breakaway sessions where there are different discussions taking place in different rooms, plenaries, you could say. And inside the main hall, we have provinces actually also accounting in terms of how they are tackling the scourge of gender-based violence. What we are expecting is that a report will then, of course, be discussed or presented in terms of the resolutions, because one of the main issues that came out for the past 2 days is the fact that there are no time frames and timelines that these NPOs and activists can actually hold government to account to, and exactly the way forward, just paving the way forward, because the National Strategic Plan is there. It's just an issue around implementation and, of course, accountability. So I think at the end of today, we are expecting the program to wrap up at around 6 p.m., that those resolutions by then would have been presented to those who are still here. But there are, of course, many who are still traveling outside of Gauteng. But at this point, we are winding down. People are packing up, and it's just a matter of now presenting the resolutions just before 6 p.m.